have a little haul here. It's just a little mini one of a couple of bargains that I spotted. A couple of them just because they came up, I'd never seen them before. They hadn't been on my wish list or anything. I just was like, oh, okay, let's try those. They're pretty cheap. And then the first one, Femme by Hugo Boss, which has been on my list for ages, and there has always been something stopping me buying it because I just had this little niggle that it wasn't going to be for me, and I think probably sometimes I'm wrong about that, but most of the time I'm right about it, and I was right about it this time. So let's start with the one that I am definitely going to declutter. So that is Femme by Hugo Boss. So it's just a little 30ml. I think I saw it for like 20-ish pounds. I think this was from Just My Look. The first two are Just My Look and the second two are TK Maxx. So I really like the bottle of this, and it's been compared to, and probably the reason why it's been in my list for so long. This is the bottle. It's kind of cool. It's a bit bulky, a bit heavy, but it's kind of funky, you know. It looks very spring-like, even though it's got like quite an industrial kind of shape to it. So Femme has been compared to Dior Forever and Ever, Forever and Ever Dior by Christian Dior. I love that perfume. I've loved it for ages. I thought this one might be interesting to test out and see if it actually does smell anything like that. Ooh, it's really difficult to get that lid off. That is tight. Okay, I'm just going to spray this out into the box. I know I don't like this. It's got a little bit of it's not the best sprayer. So this has also been compared to something else that I think it smells more like, which is Karl Lagerfeld, the Karl Lagerfeld perfume that's just in the kind of see-through bottle with his head on the front. And I had a miniature of that. I'm not even sure if that review's up yet. I'll make sure that it goes up at some point. This I find very sharp and screechy. Like there is a slight sweetness when this dries down, and I reckon maybe there's about 2 minutes after you've had it on for maybe half an hour where it does smell a tiny bit like Dior Forever and Ever. But Dior Forever and Ever is not at all screechy. It's very sweet and blossom-like, you know? It smells like spring blossoms. This smells like an old school classic screechy white floral. This could be an Elizabeth Arden perfume to me. Do you know what I mean? This could be a kind of Pleasures or a Splendor kind of vibe, you know? It's just really, it never loses that kind of nose tingly floral smell that I cannot abide, and I always think smells like a cleaning product. So there is something kind of weirdly creamy in this though. Like, I don't know, I just can't wear it myself, but it's not one that I smell and go, oh, I don't know how other people like that. It's just one that I can't wear myself. So the notes in this are top notes of freesia, tangerine and blackcurrant, middle notes of Bulgarian rose, lily and jasmine, base notes of lemon tree, apricot and amber. And the votes on this one have freesia at the top, not that far behind, followed by rose and then lily. Then it's got the tangerine, lemon tree. Then, I mean, I smell the blackcurrant and jasmine more than I smell the kind of freesia, you know. I get way more of the lily, and the rose is very, very dry. Yeah, I don't know, I just can't, because I like freesia. Freesia is one of my favourite florals, I think, in perfumes. But I like it when it's kind of sweetened, you know. I like that sweet freesia. And I like freesias in real life. I think they're a beautiful scent. But no, this one I just can't get on with. It's way too sharp for me. It's just, no. It's a no, basically. So then, when I was buying this one, I was just kind of looking at what else they had on their clearance on Just My Look. I think it's Just My Look. I apologise if I've got that wrong, but I think that might be what it's called. So this is Lacoste Perfume Intense. This is just a little 30ml. It's got a really nice little tiny box. The colour of the bottle in the box I think really suits what this actually smells like. Let me just have a quick sniff. Yeah, okay, let me put that on there. Cute little bottle. It's like a metallic kind of brown colour. There you go, you can see the Lacoste. So this one, very simple note structure listed here that I was quite excited about, and that's why I bought this. It was a bargain. I mean, I can't even remember how much I paid for this, but it was pretty cheap for a 30ml. Definitely under 20 quid, else I wouldn't have bothered with it. I wouldn't have taken the risk. So the top notes are just listed as caramel, middle notes Bulgarian rose, base notes Australian sandalwood, musk and Himalayan cedar. The votes on this have caramel at the top, followed by the sandalwood, followed by musk. Then the rose and the cedar are really low down. And that's fair enough. I was really hoping for way more rose here. I was really hoping that it would be a kind of sandalwood, caramel and rose scent. But I think really it's caramel and sandalwood. It's a nice sandalwood. It's not like horribly like woody. It doesn't smell like a table. It's got that powdery, soft, nice sandalwood that I really like. It's not a burnt caramel. It's kind of creamy. But this might sound like an odd thing to say. This perfume smells so European. It smells kind of, you know, German. And I think I feel like that because it smells... as soon as I smelled it, I thought of Jill Sander perfumes. There is a certain DNA in a lot of the Jill Sander Softly and Poudre ranges that really is recognisable in so many of her perfumes, and it's also recognisable in this. So when I first sprayed this, I was like, this really reminds me of a non-chocolatey Poudre Intense. I have her Poudre Intense, and sometimes I really struggle to wear it because it has a slightly odd caramel baby powder vibe. It's currently in my kind of, am I going to keep this one or not? My possible declutters, because I just don't reach for it. And when I wear it, I kind of like elements of it, but I don't know if I'm entirely comfortable in it. And so I'm trying to work this one out at the moment. We're moving into warmer spring weather, so this might be something that I have to just leave on the shelf and try again in colder weather and see how I get along with it, because it is very sweet because it's a caramel perfume. But if you want like a kind of toffee caramel kind of smell and you don't mind sandalwood, this is like a bargain. It's not strong. It's definitely a skin scent. It's definitely very soft and gentle. But yeah, it's kind of also quite pretty. I think the more it dries down, the nicer it gets. I think it has that weird Jill Sander slightly plastic DNA, I think is what I'm trying to say here. Like if you told me there was maybe not cardamom, but there's definitely like a slightly unusual, slightly plasticky smell that I get with pretty much every Jill Sander perfume that I'm also getting a little bit of in this. So that's definitely not going into my declutter pile straight away, and plus it's a tiny little bottle and box, so I'll put it to one side and I will try it. When I've sprayed it on just my arm, I've quite enjoyed the smell of it, especially when it dries down. But like I said, I really wish there was more rose in it. I'm really sad that there's not more rose. Okay, so what have we got? I'm not sure. Oh, also to mention, the Lacoste one, which is the Femme Intense, that had been compared to a few things that I don't know, but it's been compared to I think it's called Mac Nude, is it? And I think, it was also Prada Candy. It was compared to Prada Candy. And I have not smelt Prada Candy since it first came out. I cannot remember at all what that smells like. So I can't comment on whether that's actually accurate. But I think if you imagine this as like a skin scent and a nude kind of skin scent, then I think that makes sense, because it is very sweet, it's smooth, it's slightly powdery, and it doesn't really project very much, and it doesn't actually last that long. So it's definitely more of a kind of nude beddy smell. Like I probably wouldn't wear this to work. I would probably wear this around the house. There is a kind of cashmere kind of vibe to it. So anyway, next one, this is Miller Harris. So I'm just going to say, in case it's helpful, with TK Maxx, They are sometimes really rubbish about where they put their perfumes. They don't always list them under perfumes. Sometimes they list the male ones under the female. Sometimes they put the female ones under the male. So what I do now, even though you do have to sift through all the other beauty things, it's easier to just look in the new in section on the on like TK Maxx. If you look under beauty, they have a new in, and then it's like view all. And that's where I found these, because I was just kind of having a little browse, and these are not in either the male or the female perfume pages, but randomly there were a few little tiny 15ml Miller Harris perfumes in the new in, you know, so they're under like with all the shampoos and the body lotions and stuff, which is weird, but there you go. So there were quite a few of them. I know from experience that I do not like the kind of patchouli most of the time that's in Miller Harris perfumes. So generally speaking, I won't risk blind buying something that's got patchouli in from Miller Harris. These are the two that I thought looked kind of safest, and they had quite interesting reviews, and I liked the look of the notes, so I thought, okay, I'm going to try these. These are both unisex perfumes, and they definitely both smell quite unisex, one more than the other. So this first one is called Dance Amongst the Lace. Dance Amongst the Lace. These are really cute little bottles as well. They were $12.99, I think, which for me, for like a 15ml or 14ml even, isn't the cheapest, but Miller Harris is quite an expensive brand. So okay, I'm just going to spray this onto a little bit of paper to remind myself. I have tried this on my skin. First time I tried it on my skin, I don't know whether it was just because it was fresh out of the bottle, it's had like a garbage smell in it. Very cute little bottle, as you can see. So yeah, but I kind of thought, that's really weird, I don't know where that smell's coming from. So I tried it again, and I didn't get it the second time I sprayed it. So I think it just needed like a clear out on the nozzle or something, even though these were wrapped in cellophane. So, I mean, who knows? I love the citrus and mint that you get when you first spray this. It is absolutely, this is a summer perfume. There's no way, I mean, I wouldn't want to wear this at any other time of the year other than very high heat summer. So okay, the notes in this, they are intriguing. So the top notes are lemon verbena, lime and mint, red berries and cardamom. Middle notes are bourbon geranium, bergamot, blackcurrant, fennel, angelica. Base notes are vetiver, moss, myrrh, musk and sandalwood. So you definitely get lemon verbena. It's very green. You get a lot of very unsweetened lime, which is super fresh and really does smell like actual lime. The mint smells like fresh mint. It doesn't smell perfumey. It doesn't smell dried. It smells like fresh mint. And then it starts to dry down, and you get much more of that geranium. And then I don't think everyone else gets the same as me here, because the votes on this are lemon verbena up top, followed by vetiver geranium, then bergamot, lime, and then moss, mint, blackcurrant. And it takes a while to get down to the fennel. But for me, my skin pulls that fennel out really, really strongly. Now, I didn't know if I really liked this because of that, because for me, that makes it smell a little bit more masculine leaning. But at the same time, it's got this lovely freshness. And instead of it having... So the thing is, this is a little bit... I think it has been compared to as well. It's a little bit like Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. I don't like that perfume. I hate the smell of the wood in that. I think it smells masculine. I just don't like that perfume. I've never smelled a flanker of it that I like. I think it's really weak. I just don't like it. This has that same kind of vibe, but the kind of weird masculine tone in this is coming more from obviously the vetiver, but also like quite a peppery fennel. And there's barely any sweetness in this at all. So it's really pretty, but I haven't worked out yet, and I will have to try this in really high heat to work out whether the freshness can override the general slightly masculine vibe that I get from it, because I generally don't like to smell masculine, like, at all. I don't mind things that I think smell incredibly unisex, but as soon as I start to think it smells masculine, I'm like, no, I don't. I think I've got two perfumes that maybe you could argue lean a bit masculine, and everything else definitely is either dead on unisex or feminine, from like a little bit feminine to mega feminine. That's just what I feel comfortable wearing. And to be honest, I don't like super masculine scents on men either. There's just something about, because I'm so fussy about wood, and they do tend to have those kind of excessively woody, excessively kind of dark, or, you know, all the things I've given my husband that I love him in the most are all unisex, and they might be slightly too masculine for me, but they're always slightly sweet, or they're a little bit fruity. My favourite things on him have chocolate in. So, you know, I feel like that just generally. I don't like hyper masculine perfumes on anyone, ever. So I am really fussy about that. But because of that fennel, it's so unusual, it makes me more inclined to want to try it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just an interesting smell. I don't think I've ever had a perfume that has like a really dominant fennel note to me. So, and fennel's just quite interesting, you know? There is a pepperiness, but there's like that slight anise kind of aniseedy vibe that you get from fennel that's super interesting. So it definitely warms up, and it isn't quite as sharp when it deeply dries down. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of interesting. I don't get a huge amount of cardamom, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely think it gets prettier, if you see what I mean, as it dries down. But who knows? Who knows? I will come back to that one for sure. That's definitely, like the Lacoste, is staying in my collection. Before I move on, I forgot. So let's read this little kind of poem on the back. Me personally, I don't like packaging. I think a lot of the rubbish they write about perfumes is so pretentious. But I do quite like poetry. So let's have a look and see what this says. So Miller Harris, this is: dance among the lace with footsteps light as orange-tipped butterflies. Sparkling out of the green, 1,000 white blooms, is Queen Anne's lace. Okay, so that's kind of pretty. To be honest, dance among the lace, I was really expecting this to be a kind of a sort of sweeter and more sweetly delicate. I don't think of lace as being like a super hyper sharp fresh citrus, but you know, each their own. So if we move on to Lost in the City, this one was one that I was a bit more sure about. I thought that the notes looked kind of less risky for me, and I was quite sure I was going to like it. So this also has a little poem on it. I'll read it to you now. So this says: lost in the city, at last rewarded for the straying off the well-trodden path. Hoodwinked by burdock, posing as rhubarb, so I took the birds as my guide. And there on their perch, between the ferns, blackcurrant, wild and tantalising. So, again, this is... I mean, rhubarb, definitely. I feel bad for the people who have bought this perfume and don't get the rhubarb, but I have to say the rhubarb is one of the most noticeable rhubarbs I've smelt personally on me. So this is Lost in the City. Very beautiful and lovely. I'm just going to try and actually get these. Yeah, there we go. So when I first sprayed this, I had one thought, and that is that it smells almost identical to another perfume that I used to own that is very expensive. So although I wonder how much this they might be a similar price point, but maybe you get more of the Miller Harris. So the notes in this are: top notes are blackcurrant, bergamot and angelica. Middle notes are rhubarb, geranium and rose. The base notes are Earl Grey tea, musk and amber. Now, there is nothing on here outside of the geranium that would make me think I'm not going to like this perfume. And I do like this perfume, but this is another one that is very lacking in sweetness. It is very sharp, and therefore, again, a very high heat perfume for me. But I sprayed it, I took a sniff, and I just said to myself, that is Hedonist Cassis by Victoria Minya. Now, I used to have a big bottle of that, or at least I think they only come in 40 mils or something. I used to have a bottle of that. I think it cost me about £125. Nowadays, you're looking at 150 for about 40 mil. It's a beautiful, I think of it as a rose perfume, but it is a blackcurrant, like it's cassis. It's green. It has rhubarb in it. It has rose in it. It has blackcurrant. It's so similar to this, but slightly more of the dry geranium and slightly more of the rhubarb. And then it's got, I think, grass in that one, and this one has tea. So yeah, there you go. It starts to pop through when you first spray it. Hardcore sharp, very full of bergamot, really unsweetened blackcurrant. You definitely get that super dry geranium, and then the more it dries down, the more you start to get a bit of rose, and then the rhubarb pops right out. And on my skin, so much rhubarb, and it's really, really pretty. I think the top comparison to this is the Hermes rhubarb, which again, I don't really remember what that one smells like. It's been a long time, and I only smelt it in store. But it's a very, this is a very unsweetened rhubarb. I mean, I think it's a rhubarb and rose rhubarb, rose and geranium with a bit of blackcurrant, but the tea in it, when it dries down, gives it a kind of slightly green and herbal vibe, which, along with the Angelica. So it definitely reminds me so much of my long lost beloved Hedonist Cassis, which I only now have a kind of tiny decant from. And I was hoping to get it again, and I might at some point. It'll be really interesting to put them, like, to compare the two, but this is really pretty. It's so sharp that I think some people will struggle to wear it. I've tried this on my skin, and it's very, very sharp, and I know that this is something I'm going to want to wear in summer and not in kind of cool spring weather, but I love that rhubarb. I love that very dry rose. And luckily, the geranium isn't kind of spoiling that too much because it just goes well in this. Sometimes I find geranium, when it makes... I find it so dry that sometimes I find it ruins a scent, but it just goes so well with these other notes in this one. So... yeah, this is super pretty. If you like sharp and slightly unusual, very fresh perfumes, then I think that Lost in the City is really, really nice. If you like light blue, but you want something more interesting, then Dance Among the Lace is really nice. If you like sweet, kind of woody caramel perfumes, or I say woody, I would never think of it as wood because sandalwood's the only wood that I really like if I can recognise it, but it's a powdery, sweet caramelly skin scent, like a nude kind of scent. This one's great. If you like kind of sharp florals, if you like things like the Karl Lagerfeld, or you like Splendor, those kind of things, if you like those kind of classic slightly sharp florals, then this is really nice. But personally, this is the only one that I know I'm getting rid of, and the other three I'm saving to see how I feel about them. That was my little baby haul. Hope you enjoyed it.